Welcome to Kairos Research Center podcast. Christian faith seeking understanding, intellectual witness, and spiritual renewal.
Well, this session has been very fascinating, and to revert to the earlier image, your guide for us up the mountaintop has been very fascinating, thought-provoking. I noticed one interesting difference between you and the critical scholars. I notice when I read the critical scholars, they don't spend actually that much time on the text. They spend a lot of time on the background. So my complaint is they major on the background and they could have given more attention to the text. But in your case, you are very text-oriented and you move freely from one text of Isaiah to another text of Isaiah. I suppose that is natural for you because you assume the traditional view that the book of Isaiah is a unified work. And in particular, not only unified, it was written by one prophet, one 6th century prophet named Isaiah. On the other hand, many of the other scholars in the academia, they would not accept this view. They actually argue on the contrary that there isn't one single author for the book of Isaiah, but actually Isaiah is a collection of many of these historical sources or authors, And I mentioned critical scholars, but sadly, I think nowadays there are increasingly many evangelical scholars who actually themselves reject the traditional view that Isaiah, the one prophet, is the author of the book. So we have this contention here. How will you defend the traditional view that the book of Isaiah is written by one prophet called Isaiah?
Okay. This is how the book of Isaiah is introduced. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. So Isaiah 1:1 spells out that the book of Isaiah is a collection of prophecies based on visions Isaiah saw in the days of 4 kings of Judah, that is, over a period of about 55 years. Now, note that the text actually says the vision, singular, not visions of Isaiah. But obviously, Isaiah could not be seeing only one vision over 55 years. This means all the visions he saw are unified into one vision in this book. This indicates that the entire book of Isaiah is one coherent message based on the prophecies of one man. So the entire book has to come from one author, Isaiah, the 8th century prophet. This is the book's own claim. The basic reason critical scholars reject Isaiah as the author is their worldview, because their worldview cannot accept miracles. Therefore, there can be no predictive prophecy. This means it is a philosophical, not a historical objection. They used to argue that the book of Isaiah lacks unity. Therefore, it cannot be written by one person. But today, even within critical scholarship, the unity of Isaiah is no longer an issue. Campbell Longman and Raymond Dillard put it this way: the consensus among critical scholars has moved in the direction of acknowledging much of what was dear to conservatives, that Isaiah is not the result of a haphazard accident and internally contradictory, but rather the book as a whole shows a unity of themes and motifs. The tenor of much of the debate has shifted from focus on dissecting the text to recovering sources and settings to efforts to expound the coherence and unity of the text as it exists. Arguments from conservatives for unity of authorship based on common themes and vocabulary have now in large part been taken over and pressed into service as arguments for reductional unity in the book. In other words, although there is a growing consensus about the overall unity of Isaiah, for critical scholarship, it is a unity forged through a history of reduction rather than a unity that derives from a single individual author. This means Isaiah is not written by one person. The unity is simply the outcome of a history of editing, revising, and expanding the text by numerous authors and editors. Yes, Unfortunately, increasingly even evangelical scholars are rejecting Isaiah as the author of the book. These scholars may even deny that they do so because they reject predictive prophecy. There are basically two reasons they can offer for rejecting Isaiah as the author. Number one, we saw that in Isaiah 40 to 55 that the author is addressing an audience already in exile in Babylon in the 6th century BC. If Isaiah wrote it in the 8th century BC, he will be speaking to people 2 centuries in the future. Now, all other prophets, when they speak about future events, they still speak to people of their times, not people of future times. So when they speak about the future exile, they do not speak to the future exiles. Why should Isaiah be such a glaring exception? So they argue, Isaiah 40 to 55 must be written by someone in the 6th century BC. However, we have already seen that there is a need for Isaiah to speak to future exiles. God himself says it was so that when he delivers the exiles through Cyrus, they would not attribute to their idols. I gave a piece of evidence from Ezekiel that this is a real danger. I now add another piece of evidence from Jeremiah. After the fall of Jerusalem, survivors who escaped to Egypt still insisted on worshipping the Queen of Heavens, just as they worshipped this goddess before the exile. They even said they were prosperous when they were worshipping this goddess. The disaster came only after they stopped doing it. They were evidently referring to Josiah's reforms that banned foreign worship. Interestingly, the exile began soon after Josiah's premature death. So there's a correlation between the ban on worshiping foreign gods and the exile. Hence we see there is a real danger that when God delivered them through Cyrus, they will attribute it to foreign gods. So there's a real need to preempt that eventuality. So Isaiah has a unique purpose. And because of the unique purpose, he has a unique approach to speak to the exiles in the future. The second reason is a bit more complicated. We saw that in Isaiah 41 to 48, the author speaks to the exile, saying, the former things have come to pass. Now, therefore, I present to you new things. He therefore predicts new things only when they are in exile. These predictions were made in the 6th century. So how could Isaiah have written them in the 8th century? So at least the new things portion of the argument could not be written by Isaiah. But since the argument as a whole involves both the former things and the new things, therefore it seems Isaiah 41 to 48 could not be written by Isaiah. It seems, it only seems so, but it is not so. We have seen that both the logic and the force of the argument of Isaiah 41 to 48 is based on the assumption that the exiles themselves are witnesses that the former things have come to pass. That prediction about Cyrus was long ago, and they now witness its fulfillment. So it doesn't make sense for Isaiah 41 to 48 to be written only in the 6th century. Imagine this. There was a book that was circulated during the Second World War. And this is what the author claims. The predictions I made long ago concerning Hitler have come to pass. You are my witnesses. This is precisely what we read in Isaiah 41. The predictions God made long ago concerning Cyrus have come to pass. You are my witnesses. Now that book about Hitler the people knew was written at the beginning of the Second World War. Only an insane person would have written that book. No sane person in the 6th century would have written what they read in Isaiah 41 to 48. So Isaiah 41 to 48 has to come from Isaiah in the 8th century. But we still have a problem. How could Isaiah have written the new thing portion of the argument, since these new things are predictions made only in the 6th century? 3 times in the book of Isaiah, it is said that the prophecies of Isaiah are written down and even sealed for future confirmation. Let's look at the 3 texts. Firstly, then the Lord said to me, take a large tablet and write on it in common characters belonging to Maheh Shalal Hashbash, and I will get reliable witnesses to attest for me. Secondly, bind up the testimony, seal the teaching among my disciples. Thirdly, and now go, write it before them on a tablet and inscribe it in a book, that it may be for the time to come as a witness forever. The practice of writing down and even sealing prophecies is so that when the prediction have come true, no one can say it is written after the event predicted has already happened. This is to confirm that Isaiah is a true prophet. In fact, in Isaiah 30 verse 9 to 10, it is spelled out that this is to serve as a witness against them, against the Israelites, because they are a rebellious people who despise prophets and prophecy. All this means the book of Isaiah, chapter 1 to 66, contain prophecy that Isaiah had preached before. That is, the former things the people have heard them before, as well as prophecies that Isaiah had never preached before. The new things, that means they were unknown to the people. In view of the practice of sealing prophecies until the time of fulfillment, we can conclude that Isaiah, the whole book of Isaiah, was sealed until the time of Cyrus, when the former things have come to pass. That means the people in exile have never heard of the new things because they were sealed until they were unsealed at the time when Cyrus was on the scene. Therefore, to them, the prediction of the new things were new to them. They heard it for the first time. So in that sense, the predictions were made only in the 6th century. This interpretation takes care of all the data in Isaiah 1 to 66. Again, one may not want to accept this interpretation for whatever reasons, but unless one can prove, not just assume, as the critical scholars do, that predictive prophecy is impossible, one cannot say Isaiah could not have written the book that bears his name. Let me conclude by borrowing and adapting an illustration from Robert Chisholm in his book Handbook on the Prophets. Imagine there is an aging grandfather with prophetic insight. He can see into the future. His only grandson is still a toddler when he foresees his wedding. When he realizes that he was going to die soon, he writes a letter addressed to his grandson and seal it with these words, to be opened on your wedding day. Imagine 20 years later, on the grandson's wedding day, he opened the letter and this is what he reads. Congratulations, grandson. You have made the right choice in marrying the mayor's daughter, Jemima. How did grandpa know all this? But you have made a wrong choice in going to Phuket for your honeymoon. On the day of your scheduled arrival, a very big, huge wave will hit the island, killing many people. The grandson may have made all the necessary reservations, He's not likely to bring his bride to Phuket. This is the same powerful rhetorical strategy of Isaiah 40 to 66. It is uniquely designed to bring the stubborn Israelites in exile to repentance from idolatry and faith in the living God. For only then, according to Jeremiah 29, 12 to 14, would God bring them back from exile. So the success of the prophecy of Isaiah is that crucial, that consequential. This further explains why Isaiah had to speak to the exile in the way he did. However, this powerful rhetoric is lost on critical scholars because of their worldview. They have ruled out the possibility of predictive prophecy. But there is much more than just a matter of philosophy. Because unless one is prepared to repent from sin and turn to God, one will have to dismiss Isaiah's redemptive message, especially since it comes with the day of God's vengeance. Therefore, one will have to turn a blind eye to this powerful rhetoric that carries the message. Now that increasingly evangelical scholars are accepting critical views of Isaiah, the rebuke of Jesus is all the more pertinent today. He says, "O foolish one, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken." Luke 24:25.